on the Pack Mountain website in a couple of days. Also, just another small housekeeping item. If I do hear background noise, even if it's wonderful music, I will mute your line, but it's okay because you can unmute yourself if you need to. So with that, let me introduce a few of the wonderful members of the team at Pack Mountain who are joining us today, and then I'll turn it over to William for a little introduction to Pack Mountain itself. So again, my name is Ingrid Schoenfeld, and I am joined here today with William Westmoreland, who is the incoming CEO of the organization. Also, Jeannie House, who is the program manager for this initiative for Journey2Jobs. I'm very pleased to have with us as well Jackie Velasco, who is our contracts and senior program coordinator, Kelly Fujimoto, community relations coordinator, and I think I may have missed a couple of other folks, but there might be like a few other Pack Mountainers lurking here. So with that, let me share the agenda and ask William, if you'd be so kind, could you just give a little thumbnail overview about Pack Mountain and its mission for any folks who may not be familiar?
Sure, absolutely. So first of all, thank you for joining. As some of you may or may not know, Pack Mountain is the local workforce development council, and our role in the community for the 5 counties we serve is to provide workforce services to a wide variety of participants, literally anyone. But we do have priority populations that we focus on, and we do outsource the service delivery or the delivery of those services. So when we do these procurements, we typically will kind of set the framework of what the service delivery model would look like. Sometimes it's very specific, and then we seek responses to those programs. This particular one is very exciting. While the approach that we're taking is something that we have experience doing, working directly with our unhoused neighbors at this level is relatively new to us in terms of a population doing that directly emerge in the community. So we're excited about doing this work. It is an opportunity for us to learn. So we're really looking forward to the expertise that a provider will bring to the conversation and help us build our skill set so we can continue to do this work. That's it.
Beautifully done. Thank you so much. So just want to draw your attention to the agenda. And by the way, if anyone cannot see my screen, let me know. Great. So I'm sure many of you have been to this sort of information session in the past, but we're just going to give a thumbnail sketch of the opportunity, scope of work deliverables, the process to apply, and really we want to spend the bulk of our time addressing any questions that you have. We realize, of course, after we publish the RFP, there are a couple of things that might be a little bit confusing. So we're happy to do our very best to answer those questions now. And if we can't answer them, we promise to get you answers in the next few days. And we will post, again, everything from this session, the recording, answers to questions we're not able to answer on the spot on our website in a couple of days. Sound good? All right, moving on. So RFP overview. So I just want to give a little bit of background because it's kind of, again, as William mentioned, it's a really interesting opportunity. So basically in alignment with the City of Olympia's One Community Plan and the City of Olympia's Economic Development Department's kind of reset post-COVID-19 reset efforts, we are going to stand up a workforce program for our unhoused neighbors. And the concept here is that we want to really be client-centered with a vision of creating meaningful work and work preparation services for our unhoused community members who are residing in emergency housing locations like Drexel House, Plum Village, Hope and Quince villages. So these are folks who have some degree of housing stability, but not, not permanent housing yet. And And all of this work will be in coordination and in close partnership with the city's existing homeless service providers, emergency housing providers. So please exhale if you're feeling like, wow, this is a lot of work for one person. It's not just you. You'll be with a really great group of folks who have deep experience with that component, with the emergency housing and homeless service provision. I think I mentioned already, the model is really using a client-centered model, also using peer liaisons or peer counselor type folks to help, which we found to be wildly successful with other projects. So using peer cohorts, employing peer workforce liaisons to build relationships and engage unhoused residents in the initiative and to gather input, and really we want to continuously refine and improve as we go, right? Because it's kind of a first for us. And that we're sure that many of you have great experience in this. So we're excited to hear your thoughts too. A little note about the activities that an unhoused neighbor might want to access. Again, it's very client focused. So it could be anything from work readiness, training, preparation, work readiness workshops, paid work experience, micro enterprise support, vocational training, supportive services, connection to jobs, and of course, connection to other relevant services to support them on their path. So, and on the slide, you have a little bit about the anticipated funding amount, project period. The city has discussed with us the period being 12 to 18 months. We're thinking that we'll get the kickoff really next month and go through August 2023. And by the way, I should have told you earlier, please feel free to put questions into chat or just unmute yourself and ask questions as we go. I don't want you to forget anything. Okay, so far so good? Okay. So a couple other things, who's eligible to bid or apply for this opportunity? Could be an individual, governmental agencies, private nonprofits, for-profits, and educational entities. So we want to really find folks who have passion for this work and expertise. And I'll say a little bit more about that in a minute, about kind of what would make you successful. Let's take a quick look at some of the themes of this RFP, scope of work, and deliverables. So, and Pack Mountain team, please jump in at any time. So you can see on the screen, or I'm hoping, the kind of the main themes. So delivering and overseeing the delivery of work preparation, employment, training and services, and referrals. And our vision here is to have, we're going to hire 3 peer workforce liaisons that the service coordinator will mentor, supervise, support. So those folks will be really working in an embedded way with the emergency housing providers to find folks who are interested and have capacity to engage in this initiative. Another chunk of work is related to stakeholder engagement. So in addition to our unhoused neighbors in these tiny villages, we'd like to have a steering committee stood up so that it can inform the project and be a feedback mechanism with our neighborhood, with our community, with our city. Other stakeholders include the City of Olympia, Thurston County, Thurston Strong, a subset of the Thurston Economic Development Council, and of course our emergency housing and homeless service providers. I guess the third chunk of work or bucket is around supervision and management, again, to assist in the hiring of our peer workforce liaisons, and the usual kind of project stuff that we need to do, right? Manage some data, track outcomes, costs, etc. And lastly, I mentioned before, we're really interested in continuously refining, improving the project, the initiative, the approach, through that stakeholder engagement. We want to be really humble. We don't know all the answers. And we want to be open to, again, just creating the best possible initiative that we can. A little bit about the application process. How am I going? How are we doing? Is this too fast? Are you guys okay? So far, so good? Okay, cool. I get excited and sometimes go really fast. So I want to just reiterate and clarify a few things. So all of this that you see on the slide here is in the RFP. Couple things to clarify. There are 9 supplemental questions, or 8 if you don't need to provide extra information. And we'd love it to be, all those answers to be quite brief, not to exceed 7 single-space pages. Oh, and looks like I have a typo here. And up to 2 pages of attachment. Kelly, remind me to fix this before we post this on the website. There's a section here, let me just pull it up real quick, about references. And so I think that's what I wanted to mention here. There are 9 proposal questions. The second one discusses experience with similar projects, attach at least 2 demonstrations of similar work. So feel free to attach another couple pages if you need to. Wanted to clarify, let's see, is that the other one? That might be it actually. I think that's it. So those are kind of the components. And again, this is in the RFP. There are a little couple of places where we're a little bit inconsistent about the number of pages. So again, questions maybe up to 7 pages. Jackie, is that good? Anything else? Was I too murky? Just murky enough?
I think you did great. And if it wasn't clear, everyone is totally welcome to ask any clarifying question.
Yeah, please do. Thanks. A little bit about the evaluation criteria. So those kind of supplemental questions, those 9 questions really are the most weighted component, followed by your history and background in workforce, career development, and working ideally with homeless populations, or awareness of issues related to those, our neighbors who are unhoused permanently, and then cost effectiveness. We'd love to get proposals by the 21st at 12 p.m. So just to kind of sum up kind of what we're looking for, a combination of, again, project experience with projects that have multiple components, multiple stakeholders. We love for folks to have some career development or workforce development expertise. Familiarity with common challenges that our neighbors facing homelessness encounter. Of course, stakeholder engagement skills. And I'll just say, really, we want to make sure that we are being respectful and empathetic for individuals who are impacted by homelessness. And again, having them be at the very center of this initiative. And it wouldn't hurt if you had some passion for client-centered services. A little bit about the announcement process. So we post everything on our website, which is the same one you use to find this RFP. And we'd love it if you would take it upon yourselves to be responsible to check the website to make sure where things stand. I went kind of fast through all that. I want to pause here and see if you have questions. And we're a pretty small group. I mean, here's our official protocol for asking questions. You can raise your hand, either the virtual little hand icon in Zoom, or you can just unmute yourself. It's fine with me if you want to unmute. We love it if you put the questions in the chat as well, because that way we make sure that we record them correctly. So let me just pause here and expand my chat box to see if I can see what questions have come in. Okay, Danny, great question. It looks like Jackie already addressed it. 7 pages total for the proposal. And if you want, you can include additional references. So that would be 9 pages in total. Thank you for that. Other questions? There's no dumb questions. Oh, Angie, great question. Has the steering committee been formed yet? It has not been formed yet. And that's something that we're hoping that our fabulous new service coordinator can facilitate. What else is coming up for you now?
Hi, Ingrid. This is Jessica Brasher. I had a question regarding the peer liaisons and how those are funded. Would those be funded through the award amount, or would the award amount just be for the supervision and direction of those peer liaisons?
Great question, Jessica. So we have some flexibility in that, but the award amount for the $100,000 for this service coordinator RFP is not including funding for those peer liaisons. And to go one more level down, so again, we're open to a variety of different kinds of entities applying for this opportunity. So if, for example, you're an individual consultant in this space, Pack Mountain could act as the employer of record, and we would pay the liaisons through our administrative structures. If conversely, maybe Danny, our ARC, decides to take this on and he says, I've got, and I'm sorry, Danny, if I'm using the wrong pronouns, I can't quite make you out. There you are. So maybe Danny says, no, I'd rather have my organization pay for those peer liaisons, so we can have a discussion about how that might work. Hopefully I said that correctly, William, and correct me if I'm wrong. What else is percolating for you? I hope you're excited by the flexibility in this initiative. You can really make it something great. There's a lot of flexibility. We want to make it great for our city.
Hi, this is Nate with Career Path Services. I have just one quick question. I was thinking about the work that's already currently being done by the city and the other entities and the work that's in place right now. Are there like any written reports or any sort of like an annual reports or any of that kind of stuff that's in place now that could be accessed to help, just as we're formulating ideas, to make sure we're building off of a foundation that's already there and aligning our thinking with them?
Nate, that is brilliant. I'll start off and say, and I'll encourage my colleagues to join in. I'm not aware of a report. I'm sure that there are reports, and I would suggest that the service coordinator would definitely be in close coordination with those entities like Catholic Community Services, Lehigh, et cetera, to get that information and build from it. William, do you have a better answer or additional?
I was just going to point out that this project really, while it's funded by ARP dollars, it really stems from the city's earlier efforts. I think it started around 2018, 2019, that they had a huge convening and brought a lot of people to the table to discuss it. And that we referenced the plan in the RFP documentation. I will say that the city's traveled quite a distance since that point. So there may be additional information that we could pull up, but that's really kind of how we centered our approach, is building off of the key deliverables from the city's plan. And I forget the name of the plan. I'll pull it up here and find it.
It's the One Community Plan.
There you go. One community, I did with something like that. One community plan. I think that would probably be the best resource, but we could check with the city to see if they have more data and information since that report was published.
Did that answer the question, Nate? I'm wondering if there was a sub question that we didn't get to.
No, that's completely helpful. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, yeah, no worries at all. And I guess I might just add too that I think it's our hope that like the housing providers already have structures in place and some reports or some assessments even that our service coordinator could leverage to do some of this work, to engage folks and to assess them and make sure that we're being client-centered. Thanks, Jackie. Jackie posted the link to the One Community Plan.
No prob.
What else, folks?
I have a question. This is
Please.
Danny with Out Art. It says that the peer workforce liaisons, they're going to go out and reach out to these individuals. Is that what I'm hearing?
You got it.
So where are they going to reach out to these people?
Great question, Danny. I
How
think our
often? All of that.
yeah. Well, here's our initial thoughts, and again, open to refinements, that the folks will be possibly identified to be peer liaisons by our housing partners, and they will be embedded with the housing partners in the tiny villages. So they might even so the idea is they're peers, they're talking to their neighbors, they already know their neighbors, they already know some of the folks who are ready to work, or want to kind of get re-engaged in that. William, is there anything else? Or Jeannie, I'm sorry, I should have called on you earlier.
I think that captures it well.
Yeah, I do too. I do too.
Thank you. Great questions, you guys. What else? What else are you thinking about?
Ingrid, I think some of our questions, those 9 questions, possibly could scare some people. So I would encourage everyone to think outside the box on this. Don't be literal. If you're talking about workforce development, that goes a lot of different directions. So just throw your hat into it. If you've got a plan, let's use it. Let's look at it.
That's a great point, Jeannie. Thank you. And Jeannie will be there to support the service coordinator all along the way. And she has amazing depth of experience and energy and ingenuity. So our service coordinator will not be all by themselves.
I think one of the ways to look at that is exactly as you said, Ingrid and Jeannie. We will bring the services and the knowledge of how to deliver those services to the table, really help guide the work. What we really need help with is connecting to the population in a meaningful way, right? So that's really where the peer navigators come. But even with this role, we want someone or an individual or organization that has experience with that population and knows how to navigate. And the communities here, it would be great for the coordinator to be closer to the community, from the community. I think all of those things would make sense with the coordinator role as well.
I think we're all partners in this work together. So I think we kind of realize how sometimes these initiatives are born where the city recognizes that maybe city residents aren't happy about this group of people who are camping in this park or things like that. But and the idea always comes to mind as workforce professionals, like, oh, we'll just get someone a job and we'll put them to work and it'll be fine. And as partners in the work that you all are up to, I think you recognize the complexities around those things. So where we can bring expertise and structure and strategy in working with our city partners, then we can also bring support to you all when you're trying to do the actual boots on the ground support and trying to bring those realities to fruition in terms of making a difference in people's lives.
Thank you so much, Jackie. That's perfect. And thank you, William. Danny has a great question in the chat. What if you've broken ground with a few services and programs? I say all the better. Bring it on. Who's with me on that?
I am.
Yep. I think that's a really good point. I think to highlight, and I know Jeannie or Ingrid probably already has, is that when the city first brought us this project, they literally said, well, if we just get these people jobs, maybe they can get stable housing. And we're kind of like, okay, so let's bring that down to reality. And really, I think the way to frame this is we want to move them along their journey towards self-sufficiency, towards being able to be prepared for stable housing. and work experience we think can contribute to that, right? So we understand that we are not likely to have someone come out of this program and be in stable housing as a result of getting some work experience. Really what we're looking for is to help build their confidence and start to contribute to the community they're in. So it's really more about their progression as an individual versus, the panacea of like, oh, well, they got a job and now they have an apartment, right? We understand the difference, but meeting people where they are, moving them along in that journey in a meaningful way is really, I think, the best way to kind of frame that.
Thank you, William. Norman, I'm so sorry. We have not given you your due. Please.
That's quite all right. Thank you. Hi, I'm Norman Brickhouse. I'm with Vallejo Vocation. We're in Tacoma, Washington. We have a contract with the city of Tacoma providing homeless services, but part of that contract is providing subsidized wages for people in the 3-phase program, supportive services to pay for transportation. I could pay for housing. I could pay for I-9 verification. That's one of the things that people don't even think about. I mean, birth certificates, social security cards, IDs. Will there be supportive services to pay for such things? And what outcomes are you trying to achieve?
Great question. I can try to start, and I think we might need to flesh this out a little bit more. So I'm going to start with backwards because that's easier for me. So in terms of outcomes, Norman, in the RFP, there are some deliverables. Hold on one second. I just dropped my hard copy. We outlined some deliverables in the RFP. Quite a few, kind of, we hope that they are fairly doable, kind of. So one is informing about 60 members of Olympia's unhoused community just about services. So just informing, and then we kind of go from that 60 number and we narrow it down to more and more specifics, deliverables like creating tailored service delivery plans for about 40 people. And engaging about 40 people in some sort of work experience or work preparation or job training, et cetera. Hiring, mentoring, and embedding the workforce liaisons as a deliverable. Referring about 20 unhoused residents to supportive services to ensure sufficient scaffolding, and et cetera. So take a look at page 4 of the RFP. And I read that because I want to remember what we said about supportive services. And so I would say, I'll start to say that we do have, Pac Mountain has a deep experience in the world of workforce development, career development, and so has lots of experience with referring folks to partners for supportive services. Let me pause there and have William or Jeannie pick up the mantle from there.
I think I'll defer to William on this one.
Nice.
If I could find my controls, what was the question? I'm sorry, could you repeat it just to make sure I understood it?
Norman, would you mind repeating?
Sure. We have funds to provide supportive services for our clients that pay for I-9 verification, transportation. We could pay for housing. I could buy clothes. I mean, all these things are necessary. I mean, hygiene kits. If you're going to be working with someone, it sounds like we want to get them in a training program. Sounds like we want to get them into some type of BFET program services to start working on employment services, identify training programs, a career assessment. But to do all these things, you also need that extra money to buy a toothbrush, get clothes so they can show up for work. What about taking a shower every day? I mean, when we do homeless services in Tacoma, we really micromanage our people just so that they have the best outcome of success. What will it look like in Olympia?
Yeah, so they're in the funds that we have available for the program. There's a little bit of that money, but the city was very specific about the money translating into wages or stipends, what have you. We would look to co-enrolling them into our WIOA-based programs for those additional support services.
Okay, thank you.
And other referrals into community organizations that could assist with those as well as they're appropriate.
Okay.
Folks who might not be familiar, Pac Mountain oversees other programming that provides employment support services. So if there was somebody who was eligible across multiple programs, we would probably encourage co-enrollment to leverage those funds.
Sounds great. Thank you.
Thanks so much, guys. Angie, did you have a thought? I felt creativity coming from you. Nope. Oh, Jessica's hand is up. Go ahead, Jessica.
Hi, so I have one more question. I don't know if this is the right group that would have the answer, but I'm curious about the duration of the emergency housing that the residents are currently in. Is there any concerns about losing their current housing if they were to obtain employment, or are they currently working with agencies to kind of avoid that cliff, that benefit cliff, to continue the support for those residents? And also, what is the resident sense of urgency to leave their current situation to move into another self-sufficient housing and employment situation?
Mhm. Shall I start off, William and Jeannie, and you guys jump in? So I think a couple things. So one, the vision at the moment is that the folks who will be served are already in, like we call them tiny house villages, like Plum Village and Quixote Village. I'm not aware of a time frame or a limit on their residency there, but we can certainly find out and post that on the website to make sure I'm speaking in turn for once. And then secondly, there is, again, this is a client's opt-in. They decide if they are interested in any of the wide array of offerings, and they decide to what degree do they participate. Again, it could be something as, oh, thanks, Norman. Good point. In chat, Norman says in Tacoma, it's 12 months in the tiny houses. So good point. We will definitely make sure to clarify that. But our vision for the clients is, on the client side, is they decide what, if they want to engage and to what extent. So it's possible that someone, and I've heard this doing some research with some of our local service providers, that some folks are really like, they have amazing skills and they just might need a little brush up, or that last certification to get back to work as an auto mechanic, and they have amazing skills and they're ready to go. And the other folks might really need to just attach very gently, if you will, to some work experience, just to experience, I'm taking a few hours out of my day to do something slightly structured, and I'm going to try to do it on a fairly regular basis. So I don't know if that helps at all. Does that help?
Yes, that's helpful. I'm just, my wheels are spinning here. I'm thinking about the different service delivery options, and just wanting to ensure we plan for any hard deadlines where somebody may lose housing, or any parameters that we have to operate in.
Great. Well, I'm glad to hear that your wheels are spinning. That's a good sign.
Thank you.
Great questions, you guys.
I
What
think
else?
I think
Go ahead.
Danny has a question.
Oh, please go ahead.
Norman's got a hand up too.
Awesome.
I was asking, what I'm understanding is that the clients need already be in some type of housing, tiny homes, or wherever the case may be.
Yeah.
So they can't just be off the street somewhere, just walking. Is that
I mean,
what I'm hearing?
I would say that the service coordinator, if the service coordinator desires to get folks who are roaming around, we wouldn't say no.
Okay.
The lower hanging fruit, we think, is to work with people who already have some degree of stability in their housing, because they're in the official tiny home sites. They've got some services, some connection to support.
I think that just to build onto that, Ingrid, we did intentionally decide, because of our lack of experience, Pack Mountain's lack of experience with connecting with this population, that the logical place for us to beginning to engaging were the identified 3 locations: Rosie's Place, the mitigation site, and the Plum Street Tiny House Village. I think the larger constraint is that this is City of Olympia funding. While we all recognize this is not the city's sole issue or responsibility, we are targeting people in the city's boundaries. That being said, we think, especially with the youth population, we're likely to find that it may be easier to connect with them outside of those particular communities. This is really where the peer navigators will come into play, is to help understand not only where they are in their journey, but how best to engage them and what type of services make sense based on where they are, where the participant is in their journey. So the bigger constraint, the city, we think as Ingrid said, the low-hanging fruit would be in those 3 particular identified areas. But I think as long as you can connect them to the city of Olympia, the region, in the city limits, then there would be a case to be able to manage and navigate them.
We have an agreement with the city to involve certain partners, but I don't believe it's mutually exclusive. So perhaps that would be a space to start, but it doesn't mean that's the only place you can be.
We would, if they're not directly connected to one of those 3 providers in the city right now, we would probably make that a part of the engagement, is to connect them at least to the mitigation site, right? Or if they're used at Rosie's place.
That's a good point. You know what? Great questions, you guys. And I'm so glad you asked that, because William, you mentioned something that I don't think we explicitly said today, but I think it is in the RFP. One of the things about one vision that we have for the peer workforce liaisons is that, so we'll have 3, and that 2 of the 3 will focus on engaging adults. So anyone age 18 and above, and one of them would focus on engaging youth. And we're using a definition that's kind of a technical one from workforce development. I think, is it, hopefully I'll tell this right, age 16 to 24. Is that right, Jackie? Oh, phew. So that we really make sure we have someone really focused in on the younger adults. Food for thought. What else?
Hi, this is Angie. Yes, I did have a question. Do you have any type of materials that kind of goes through the Journey2Jobs that's created already, or is that going to be something that will need to be created?
Can you say more, Angie? Are you thinking about like outreach materials or?
Yes.
Great question. That needs to be created.
Okay.
And we have some great folks we've worked with in the past to create that kind of thing. Jeannie has a lot of experience with that. And so again, you'll have support.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Yeah.
I have one other question.
Please.
As we're working with this population, one of the things that we really recognize is they're dealing with some very severe barriers, sometimes mental health, sometimes addiction services. Will there be partners that we could do referrals for these services to make sure there's successful outcomes?
I think the short answer is going to be yes. We have a great community in Olympia with a lot of entities doing that work. And I think our emergency housing providers also have really strong relationships with those kinds of entities. So that's my unofficial answer. William or Jackie or Jeannie, you want to give a more official answer?
I think I can jump in really quick and offer that Pack Mountain often serves in a role of convener, and that's a space where we are a tremendous value add, I think, on projects like this. And so whoever's in this role coordinating, we would be happy to assist as necessary to make sure that every resource that can be valuable has a contact that can come to the table to get people what they need.
And I believe it's client-centered, so always, yeah.
Perfect. Thanks, guys. Like the way you guys are thinking. Danny, jump in.
I was wondering about the 10. At the end of everything, by 12 to 18 months, we're looking at having 10 individuals in stable housing, or just 10 individuals in like tiny homes or the case. We know that's not their own place, but is that what we're actually looking at, is 10 in actual stable housing? Just want to clarify.
Great question. We may need to do a little more defining of that, right, team?
Yeah, I think so.
That was a little bit of an aspirational goal. And again, this is not exactly the homeless service is not really our bailiwick. So we'll have to get the correct language, but we're just hoping that, you know, some of this work might result in folks having more than just being able to live in a tiny village. You know.
I have a question. I hate to
Yeah.
keep jumping in.
No, we love it.
Tons of experience with homeless services, but I'm in Tacoma, Washington.
Yeah.
While I've been down in my past life or past profession in Olympia, I'm not, of course, everybody knows Pack Mountain. I'm not familiar with all the service providers like I am in Tacoma, Washington. So if we decided to apply for this RFP, I'm assuming there would be some type of onboarding of this type of agency. So that way we would get the relationships in Olympia that we need to be successful.
Yes, Norman, we would make sure of that. We would.
Excellent. Thank you.
Anybody who's brought on for the project will get a thorough onboarding with Pack Mountain for this scope of work and for Pack Mountain's body of work. And we would absolutely bring our network to assist to make sure the program is successful.
You guys are awesome. Thank you.
And I think it's probably fair to point out that that might not be as deep as it would need to be. And one of our internal goals is to be better connected to the providers that work on a regular basis with this population so that we can better connect.
Great. We have lots of time left. I'm sure you have questions you haven't asked yet. Or anything else from the Pack Mountain team that we might want to ask. Oh, Danny, we're ready.
I know you mentioned about the peer liaisons, having 2 for adults and 1 for the youth. What if there was someone who was applying for and they work with youth? Will it still be 2 for adult and 1 for youth, or was it be vice versa, 2 for youth and 1 for adult? Or y'all just kind of go on however, do you see what I'm saying? Understand what I'm saying?
So I think you're asking, is there flexibility on kind of
Right.
focus areas for the peer workforce liaisons?
Yes.
That's a great question. Is that something we need to reflect upon and put in writing, or William, do you have executive answers you want to share?
Well, I think from the perspective of the initial framing of this project, we really envisioned a peer navigator being assigned to each of the 3 partner locations that we're working with. Youth is our least firm at this point. There's still a bit of a evolution to do with to go through with Rosie's place, so that it might mean that we land with a youth peer navigator who floats around more and does work a little bit differently than, say, the other 2. I think what is important in terms of youth versus adult is really how participants could be housed or clustered. If they're in a youth facility, we would like for them, a navigator, to have experience working with youth. But that is not to say that they may not serve adult clients as well. The way we frame our work naturally in our youth is the 16 to 24-year-olds, but we also look at adults as 18 and up. So it really, I think, whatever makes sense for the population in your proposal. And in this case, it's really going to be, I think, a collective effort to find the 3 peer navigators and to figure out how to best leverage them. Our thoughts are facility by facility or location by location. It may mean that maybe we organize the work based on ability of the population we're targeting. So I think the door to that is open for discussion, and we would look to your expertise, and then also Rosie's Place and Catholic Charities and Lehigh to help kind of guide how best to connect with the population.
Thank you so much, William. That was a great answer. I like that a lot. What else? And again, this is not your only opportunity to ask questions, because if you're like me, you need to kind of sleep on things, and then at 2 o'clock in the morning, things will pop into your head. So that's why you can ask the brilliant team here anything at any time.
Clarifying question.
Yes.
With the liaisons, that was my big hurdle when I kept reading over and over. Okay, what are these liaisons? What are their jobs and their responsibilities during this project? So with that, I just want to make sure this is a funding question. I know you had mentioned it early in the beginning, but my mind was somewhere else, I believe.
Okay.
Are they funded through the funding or the outside of this funding here? I just want to clarify.
Yeah, exactly right. So the peer workforce liaisons are funded, their salaries are funded outside of the service coordinator RFP. Because I mean, really, $100,000 for how many people?
Yes.
One.
I read that too, and I was like, oh, people are going to be shaking in their boots thinking they're
Yeah.
going to have to pay for it all.
Yeah. Carry on.
Another funding question. I know y'all mentioned also stipends.
Mhm.
If we were to, could someone get paid by stipends? Is that possible through the funding?
Yeah. So again, so this
As a stipend, that's what I meant, as a stipend.
and maybe Jackie, you might want to, or Jeannie might want to speak to this specifics of stipend. I know there's some definitions around that. In general, I'll start to just say in general, the program participants, so let's say that our fabulous youth peer workforce liaison connects with a fellow youth who wants to get some short-term pre-vocational training here's a better example, get a work experience, get some hands-on work experience at a mechanic shop. So yes, we have funds to pay for that participant to get that training, get that on-the-job learning experience. And that's outside of the service coordinators RFP funds. Because again, it's $100,000. So any more specifics around stipends, Jeannie or Jackie?
I think you did a good job on that. It depends on the position. It depends on the length of time. There's a bunch of stuff, that would go into it. So unless we have money set aside for that specifically. So
And I
if that
think,
makes
yeah, June, that made perfect sense. And Denny, just so you're aware, the kind of things that other workforce programs can pay for are paid internships or other types of subsidized employment that lead to full-time job placement after like a sort of like a training period or that kind of stuff. So there's lots of opportunities there, and that funding can come out of other programming rather than this if the participant is interested and eligible, which there's, for the most part, then everyone is eligible under something for the most part.
Mm-hmm. And this particular initiative does have funds set aside for participant work experience types of things, which broadly speaking in my worldview also includes things like stipends. So, and the good news is Jeannie House, who's our program manager, has a ton of experience doing exactly this kind of thing with a current project she's working on to help folks get paid work experience so they can connect to work. I don't see any more hands up. I hope I'm not missing anyone.
I have one more question. Office space. We are in downtown Tacoma. It would be a new territory that we're coming in. We're a nonprofit staffing agency, so literally I could put people to work wherever we have job assignments. My question to you is, would I be able to put the service coordinator in one of your cubes or your location, as we don't have office space in Olympia yet?
William, do you want to take that one? I have an assumption, but I realize I didn't actually ever clear it with anyone.
Yeah, that actually is a really good question, and I think that it is something we can help navigate. I think in our heads, we certainly feel like the coordinator will be in the streets a lot, working directly with the peer navigators who are embedded. But there also would be some need for some office space and access to technology. I'm sure if there is a need for that in your proposal, if you just add it, we can navigate around that as we go through the review process. So I would say the door is open to it.
Okay.
Thanks, William. I was going to say, yeah, take this space right next to Jeannie. That's the best place to be.
Ingrid,
Sorry.
teasing.
Danny, anything else? And I don't know if we've heard from Casey yet.
Danny, did that answer your question regarding the work experiences?
Yes.
What was do we have an estimate, I'm sorry, Ingrid, on what the dollar amount is that we have available for stipends? Potentially, it may not be exact.
We do, and unfortunately, I did not pull up. It's in the project proposal that we
Yeah.
sent to the city. I don't know if
I
anyone.
believe it's over $400,000.
It's a substantial amount.
Yep, yeah, and then we have separate funds for the peer navigators. And because we generally, in these work experience situations, they become employees of record for Pack Mountain. So we manage all of those pieces. What the coordinator ultimately will manage that team of navigators and also help guide the service delivery efforts for participants who are identified, and to help kind of really ideate around what opportunities are available to employ folks. So that we then have something to use the stipend and funding for to spend down. I believe it's quite a bit over $400,000. So they could be very short employment periods. They could also be longer, more sustained periods. We also have the ability to connect to the WIOA system. So additional work experience, OJT trainings, things like that are available should we find someone that's ready to go down that path.
And I can look up that exact number, but I'll have to stop sharing my screen because I need one more screen to open all these things. What else? Anything else from folks? And again, no rush because I have time. I'm here all day. And you can also email things as they come up, as questions come up, and I know how important it is to see things in writing. Oh, go ahead, Danny.
For the bio, is that one page? Is there a length of pages you need for the bio?
For the bio. To double check
History, background and history.
Oh, I think we just said the whole kit and caboodle. This is under the questions, is it not?
Okay. I didn't see it under the questions. It was a little separate.
Is it on page 6?
It's on page 4.
Ah. Thank you. That's so funny. I'm not seeing it. Jackie, can you help me? Do you know where this bio is? I'm sure it's there. I believe Danny completely.
Let me take a look. Hold on.
I'm just not seeing it. It sounds like I think that's one of those standard things that is in our RFP package.
On page 4, it says at the bottom, contractors' relative history and background. I was wondering, are there many pages? How many pages you wanted for that? Those are included in the 7.
I think the 7 is specific to those questions, to the proposal questions. That is so funny why I'm not seeing that. We'll put an answer to this and clarify the other page number questions on the website to make sure that it's clear, because I am not able to find it at this exact moment, which is weird.
Are you looking at the evaluation and selection criteria section on page 4?
Yes.
Do you see it
Where,
there?
well, it says evaluation and selection criteria, and then it says proposals will be evaluated based on the following criteria, and then it breaks it all down. Is that what you're looking at?
Yep.
Oh, I gotcha. So I think you're just like the relative history and background, the 30% is what you're talking about then?
Yes.
I'm so sorry. I thank you for your patience. I was looking for something else. Okay, so the question was how many pages is that? So I would say the answer is that's the evaluation and selection criteria relate to all of the components. And let me just scroll back up to them here. So it's and hopefully I'm not making you seasick here. It's the entirety of the application, right? So your cover page, certification form, the questions, and the bulk of it is going to come through the responses to the supplemental questions, 8 or 9, depending on if you want to do an extra credit one and number 9. And I say that jokingly. The 9th question is, if there's something else you'd like to tell us, this is the time. Does that help at all, Danny? Clear as mud?
Yes.
Jessica asked a question in the chat there, Ingrid.
Oh, great. Thank you.
Mm.
I moved my screens around and now I can't find my chat. So do you want to tell me verbally while I search for it?
Yeah, looks like we would need to know if there is a selected MIS for this project.
Oh, great question.
I'll venture out on this one. I would say we may have an internal tool to use, pardon me. But that's something that we can work through the details. If your organization has something to track the participants, we can certainly use that. We do not have to use ATO or ETO. Everybody says yay, unless we co-enroll them, at which point they would become a participant in the workforce system, and we would use the standard stuff there. I also have a breakdown of the overall budget for the project that might be worth sharing.
Oh, fantastic. Do you want to share your screen? I can stop sharing mine if you want.
Yes, hang on here one second. Well, I tell you what, we'll share this back out officially on the channel because this is just an internal document. It's got other stuff on it.
You can tell me, I'll take notes in the chat as you go. Go ahead.
So for support services, we have around $90,000, and that would be, I think it was Mark who asked the question about being able to spend that money down to buy things like toothbrushes and hygiene products. Those would be available. Those funds would be available to use for that. The work experience dollars is $150,000. And the way that was determined, looks like 35 hours for 40 participants at $16 an hour for 6 weeks. That's how that money kind of came together as an amount. There would be some flexibility in spending that. Also set aside in the project's $160,000, which pays for the 3 transitional jobs that we're calling peer navigators. And then for the entities that host the peer navigators, there is money available to use to support the placement of a navigator in one of the 3 locations. And then lastly, there's a little bit of money for training related to the 40 to 43 participants that we're targeting for services.
And William, before I press enter in the chat, the 3 peer workforce liaisons, what's the dollar amount?
160,000.
Thank you.
Yep, it's basically $20 an hour, 40 hours a week, based on our benefits package.
Thank you so much for looking that up. I hear some digestion going on. People are really thinking about this now.
While people are thinking a little bit, I can mention clearly as people start writing proposals, sometimes that's when more questions pop up because you get into the meat of the work. So you can ask a question at any point by email to contracts@packmountain.org. And there are several of us internally who can take a peek at that and make sure that we get your questions seen and reposted publicly as quickly as possible. What we typically do is respond that we received your question, but we want to make sure that because you asked, other people are probably wondering too, that we get those posted publicly on our website. So we'll always let you know when those are answered and posted so that you and everyone else who might wonder will be able to see that. And it will be, that's always available right where you found the RFP on our website under service provider opportunities. So if it is not now or never, you have plenty of time to keep asking questions as they come up over time too.
And just for point of reference, if non-Pack Mountain folks could put their names and email addresses in the chat, that would be really, really helpful.
Oh, thank you. Good idea, Kelly.
Yeah, no problem.
That way, if anything exciting comes up, we can send it stuff to you immediately, directly.
And since you've all attended here, we'll make sure that any information that moves forward about this particular opportunity gets to you guys right away.
Wow, it feels like we're going to be exhausted here. We've exhausted all of our questions. Is that true? I can't believe it. You guys are so creative. I'm sure there's more questions. Thank you, Danny and Norman, for putting your emails in the chat. Casey and Jessica, extra credit points are available for you too. Yay, go Angie. I say that, but it's really not true. Don't believe me. Thank you, Jessica. It feels like we're wrapping things up. William, would you like to give us some words of encouragement and we'll close out if folks are ready to close out?
Send us some really great proposals so we have some something to select from. So, but we're excited about this work. We're excited about forming some new partnerships and getting closer to this population. And we'll be in this together side by side, trying to figure out how best to use this money, because there will be more available as the city continues to get funding. And if this is successful, we may have the opportunity to get more and possibly even larger amounts of money to continue the work.
Perfect. Thank you so much, William. I'm so glad you mentioned that, because we are considering this a pilot project, and we do think that we can get funding if we can demonstrate success. So thank you all so much for joining. You are welcome to stay on if you want to a little bit more. I think the Pack Mountain team might do a little quick debrief, but you're also free to go about your business, because I know you guys are busy. Thank you again for joining us.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Have a great day.
You too.